Hello, friends. Welcome to the Nova Coach podcast. This is episode 329, How to Connect with People Effectively. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg, welcoming back to the show, Chantal Dempsey. And before chatting, I'm actually going to hand it over to you to lead us on, Macduff. Where do you want to start with this topic? Talk about putting you under the bus.
Well, there's, like we were talking about, there are many different aspects of connecting with people. But I think the most profound and meaningful way is to connect with each other as humans, right? Rather than connecting, networking, all of this stuff. That's kind of all the same, really. But I feel like, how do you connect truly with somebody? And we might all have experiences where we've met a stranger once and then had this most amazing, deep, meaningful conversation about the universe, and then never saw that person again. And it was, and you'll always remember that conversation. Why is it that you were able to connect with that person so easily and so profoundly?
I love that because I think I'm going to go on a tangent, so bring me back if I end up too far gone. But in the days of social media where we're like, here's my Instagram handle or here's my Facebook, sometimes we're more focused on connecting and holding that forever, and it's just becoming a number and like a vanity stat of how many followers you have. Then, as you said, that moment where you met someone who you may never meet again and had that moment that will stay with you. And I think, that effectiveness, it's kind of like there's not an agenda there. Like, it's funny, I go to business networking things online because I'm an introvert, and one of my most favorite ones to go to is run by a lady called Deanna Seymour. Check her out if you haven't already. She's fabulous. But each month she has a co-host, and shameless plug, in April the co-host is moi. But she has 3 questions that you go into the networking with. They are nothing to do with your business. And some people are like, why would you want to go to this? And I was like, because I'm so tired of, here's my business card. It's like, will I throw it out or will you? Like, it's just such an agenda thing. But like, I remember one time it was like, what's an embarrassing memory from primary school that you haven't like let go of? Or what did you like as a child that and I was like, I loved Care Bears. And I had this most amazing conversation with someone who loved My Little Pony. And then we remember each other and actually wanted to learn about each other's businesses from that, rather than I do this, oh, I do that. So I think that connection, the networking happened as a byproduct instead of let's just exchange our businesses and move along.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And that's exactly it, because you really connect with somebody when you talk about, I want to say feelings, not in the traditional way, but things that connect you. Because, if you talk about your business, yeah, well, great, and that might be interesting. But you actually, when you network with a human. And in order to truly connect, you want to talk about things that you can connect together. There's actually a book that literally just popped into my head, nothing to do with what I wanted to talk about. But anyway, there's a book called Storyworthy. And it's by Matthew Dix. And it's actually a book about how to tell stories, right? He's a professional storyteller. But what he says is, and this guy, right, this guy has had all sorts of crazy stuff happening to him. He's been wrongly accused of murder, went to prison, had this like near-death experience, all this stuff. But what he says is, my stories aren't about all this crazy stuff, because no one can relate to this crazy stuff, because not many people have had that. What my stories are about are moments. So a moment where I felt like this. And this is the moment that people relate to. And this is what connects me with my audience. And this is so true. And I remember once, a few years ago, going to this training course. And I always had this false idea that you had to be really professional and never talk about your private life and all this stuff. This was, what I used to think about, how I used to think. I went to this training course, and there was this woman there who literally within an hour was so connected to the rest of the group. And I remember thinking, how does she do it? How did she get to that? And very simply, she shared something that was really, she was, having something that was happening, and she shared it. Like, she really literally put it on the table, her pure vulnerability and genuine, this is what's happening. And instantly people connected, because everybody had experienced something similar. And she literally tapped into people's empathy and humanness and kind of love and wanting to care for her and all of this stuff. And that was it. And she didn't do it on purpose. This is just what naturally happened. But that really kind of was a bit of an eye-opener for me, how, well, actually, this is the way to connect, to go down a level, you know, go down the iceberg and connect with things that people can relate to, that resonate. This is how you connect.
I loved the thread about genuine vulnerability. Like it's not hashtagged or, you know, cycled, or like it's not manipulated. So I wrote a book. It's called The Beginning is Shit. And in the second chapter, so anyone who's listening to this, if you haven't read it already, if you go to my website, suzanneculberg.com, click on book, you can grab the first 2 chapters. You can just read them there. So you don't need to buy the book. So you can get this point that I'm going to mention just without needing to purchase the book. But I was at school and I had to do a project and I was so excited, and I did glitter and I had photos and I'd spent all this effort on it. I came to school with my poster like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And people were like, how much glitter is on there? Are you like 4? What do you think, you're a professional photographer or a model or something? Like, people just ripped it to shreds. And I was like, I spoke in the book how I was trying to cover up my poster, like put my body over it so nobody could see. And people connected to that story. Like when you're really proud and excited of something, whether or not they've had a poster ripped apart by classmates, we've all had a moment where we're like so proud of something and we're like really excited to share. And either, as we said on a couple of episodes ago, no one cares. That can be freeing, but it also can be shocking. Like, you say you're in business and you've spent years putting this thing together and it has the right colors and the right font, and you launch it and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares can be freeing, but also can be soul crushing, or worse, trolls and haters rip into it. And then you could look at the psychology of maybe they hadn't put as much effort in. So if I tear someone else's down, I feel better, like all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's pretty crushing when you're really excited about something to have it that, and people connected to that story.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think a few months ago, I took my daughter to see Harry Styles in concert, and they had this. Oh, yeah, it was great. Anyway, there was this opening act or this band that was there before, and it was much. We literally got there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Harry Styles wasn't until like 8 or 9. And so there were a couple of bands before, and this band was there very early. No one was really listening until the lead singer said, this next song is for my mum, she's in the audience. And she started welling up, and literally everyone stopped. No one was really, everybody, there's a hustle and bustle, everyone stopped and then started clapping and cheering. And literally, and of course, everyone could connect to something along those lines, you know, maybe because you want your mum to be proud of you, maybe because you've lost your mum, maybe because, you know, also you want to be with it, all sorts of turmoil inside that connected everyone in that Wembley arena to this woman, just for her saying that. And that was incredible. Absolutely incredible. You know how there you go, connect in 1 second, one sentence. That was it.
And even not being there, like I got goosebumps and chills. And I was like, oh, that would have got my attention too. Because like, you know, especially in the audience, like, you know, and there's that connection, because you said you want your parents to be proud of you, or, you know, I recently lost my mum, so I, you know, find that connecting too. Yeah. So all of this to say, where would you like, this is about being genuine, but so many of us are conditioned or told not to be genuine. Don't share too much. Don't talk about yourself. Don't do this. Don't do that. So how do people navigate the line between being who they are, but also wanting to grow or start a business or something? Because there is that fine line. Like, you don't want to be that weird oversharer, emotional trauma dumping on everybody. There's that too. So where would you recommend people to start to, you know, be able to connect effectively?
Well, I think there's kind of several levels to that, and you know, kind of as a practical tool, because I know this is quite subjective. I would say as a practical tool, and particularly for people who find it hard to make conversation, you know, this happens a lot. Then I would say have a list maybe of 5-10 topics in your mind or in your pocket that you can talk about, and that can be topics that you can elaborate further and go deeper. And that is not to say that you need to pour your heart out to a stranger or anybody, you know, in a networking meeting, but it can be, I don't know, for example, I'll give you an example. What example could I give? Right, I'll give you an example. One of the topics can be kids, right? You have kids, Suzanne, I have kids. And you could say, okay, so here's a bland surface conversation. Oh, Suzanne, how many kids have you got? Yeah, you've got 2 kids. Oh, I've got 3 kids. Great. And great. And that's it. Oh, do they go to school? You know, all these kind of questions that people tend to ask. But here's how you can connect. So you could say, you know what, I'm finding it really hard at the moment because one of my kids is finding it really hard at school, and he's and then start to go into the depth of that a little bit, and then say about how it makes you feel. So all you have to say is, I'm finding it a bit hard at the moment because I'm trying to be this kind of best parents the best parent I can be, but actually I can't, because that really stresses me out, and I don't find the patience, and sometimes it's a bit hard. You can say it, you can say a little bit, and then see how the response is, because I bet you anything that any parent would relate to that. And then that kind of can start a conversation. You don't need to be getting emotional or pouring a heart out. You can just kind of talk about that. But what that does is that it goes from the surface of where do they go to school, blah, 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 to deeper on the feeling, and something that every parent would relate to.
I love that. So it's not just the demographics of like, let's check the box together. Something that I often say, it's weird, but you know, I'm like that and I'm open and honest about it, is when I go to networking things or I meet new people, I talk about my business period. Like, you know, you have that time at least once a month where you want to quit and go and work at a stock shelves in a supermarket while you listen to the podcast you like and that sort of stuff. Business period. We all have it. Nobody talks about it. I did a whole episode about it. And it was like, any entrepreneurs, as soon as I say it, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, you've got a name for it? And I was like, yes, because online, everything looks pretty and polished and my program's amazing and people love me. Yes, but there's also times where you're just like, man, I got an unexpected bill, or not as many people signed up as I hoped, or, you know, your family's still going. How's your little hobby going? That's another one. Family, the responses to your business, like, because they don't get it. So whenever I'm on my business period, I know, don't go to my husband who's traditionally employed. He's not going to get it. Go to my biz friends who are going to be like, oh yeah, we've all been there.
Oh my God, this is the best thing. This is literally the best thing I've heard for a long time. I love it.
I love it. So thank you so much, Chantal, for like mentioning this, how to connect with people effectively. I loved the idea of having a few ins and then a little deeper to the ins. So not just like, I've written a book, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mum, but like not blasting your struggles out to the world, but I like how you said, just kind of like float the idea. I have a child on the spectrum, so sometimes that can be an interesting in with people in discussions, and the beauty of that, like the way he sees the world differently to the way that I see the world is fabulous and enriching. And it was funny, we just got back from a cruise that you and I were talking about before. I've talked about it on the show. One of the photographers actually on the cruise asked him, he's like, do you want to work on a cruise ship when you're older? Like, you know, because I imagine most kids would say yes. And he's like, no, I want to be a fashion designer. So all through the rest of the trip, whenever he saw, he's like, fashion designer, and they high-fived, and it was just such a lovely connection moment. But yeah, there are ways to, you know, that thing stays in people's minds rather than just the more vanilla demographics. So
Yes.
as I say, thank you so much for joining us. It's been fabulous. Well, it's just me, but you know, I am on the tail end of being unwell. I'm proud of myself for making it through the episode. Can you let the listeners know
Yes.
what you do, and more importantly, where they can find you?
Yes. And Suzanne, thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful for you and to be here. And you can find me on my website, chantaldempsey.com. And yeah, all sorts of free things and resources there. And you know, you can book a free consultation if you want, or ask me any question. I love questions.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.